Imagine a universe awash with life, where humans are not the only intelligent beings around. What might these alien races look like? Could we communicate with them, or even recognize them as intelligent? And what would they make of our violent and dangerous species? They might take one look and decide not to bother with such primitive beings. On the other hand, they may enrich us with scientific knowledge beyond our imagination. Or could an encounter with aliens have a more destructive outcome? Could it be a bad day for humankind? In reality, it's only make-believe. It could never happen, could it? Welcome to our home, the Milky Way. The Sun is just one of a few 100 billion stars in this galaxy. Now think of not just one, but billions and billions of galaxies, and you have the universe. How big is the universe? It's impossible to measure it in terms of kilometers. The numbers would be meaningless. Instead, distances in space are measured in light years. That is the distance that light travels in 1 year. And the speed light travels is about 300,000 kilometers per second. So 1 light year is a distance of over 9 trillion kilometers. Light takes 100,000 years just to cross our galaxy. This means every time we look up at the stars, we are looking back in time. It takes millions and millions of years for light to reach us from other galaxies, and light from the farthest regions of the universe takes billions of years. What we are seeing are events that occurred before the Earth even existed, when the universe was in its infancy. With such an immense area, it's no surprise to learn that there are more stars in the universe than there are grains of sand on every beach and desert on planet Earth. So what are the chances that Earthlings are the only intelligent life?
It would be bizarre if we were the only ones.
Are we alone? No.
After thousands of years of thinking that we are unique, scientists are making some astonishing discoveries here on Earth, in our solar system, and in deep space. Some scientists now believe that we are just a few years away from our first contact.
We'll know we're not alone between the year 2020 and the year 2025. This will be one of the biggest, if not the biggest story of all time.
And what will he or she look like? Will there even be a he or a she? Or have we already had a close encounter of the third kind? Some people believe that aliens have visited us in the past. If they do contact us, one of the greatest scientific minds of all time has a dire warning for the human race. Professor Stephen Hawking holds the Lucasian Chair at Cambridge University, a post once held by Isaac Newton. When Stephen Hawking speaks, the scientific world listens.
The history of advanced races meeting more primitive people on this planet is not very happy, and they were the same species. I think it would be a disaster.
Many scientists accept that Hawking's gut feeling may be a valid scenario. But it is human nature to be inquisitive. It's highly unlikely we'd turn down the opportunity to make contact with an alien race, no matter how dangerous it could turn out to be. And today, The thought of life on another planet is no longer just the stuff of sci-fi novels and Hollywood fantasy. For some of the best minds in astronomy, it's starting to look like a near certainty. This program asks why scientists are now so confident that we are not alone. In all of human history, we have never seen a planet beyond the 9 in our solar system, a tiny part of this immense universe. But in 1995, the discovery of a planet some 40 light-years from Earth, 51 Peg B, rocked the scientific world. Another planet, another solar system, another neighborhood in the vastness of space. Since then, rapidly advancing telescopes and computers have discovered more than 100 other planets, and experts know we have only begun to scratch the surface. The universe is huge beyond our ability to comprehend it, but with new search tools, scientists can see more of the objects and activity within it. There are almost certainly millions of other planets out there. Deborah Fisher from San Francisco State University is at the Lick Observatory. She's one of a new breed of scientist, a planet hunter. Thanks to Fisher and a few other astronomers in this field, there are now over 130 planets known outside our solar system.
I find it incredibly humbling to now realize that, our sun is really quite common, has a system of planets like other stars have. A lot of people would like to think that we're very special and unique, but I think it's very natural and comforting that this is the way, the universe is made.
But how do you discover planets light years away from Earth? Deborah Fisher monitors distant stars, watching their motion. If there is a planet orbiting a star, it will exert a slight gravitational pull on the star. Fisher can measure that gravitational wobble billions of miles away, down to a few meters per second. An incredible achievement. But so far, the planets she has found are all giant planets, more like Saturn. For life to exist, a planet has to match a tough set of criteria. From studying our solar system, scientists theorize that small rocky planets offer the best chances for life as we know it. Chemicals, the building blocks of life, need something to grip onto, and a solid surface allows that to happen. A planet has to be the right size, too. If it's much smaller than the size of the Earth, its gravity won't be strong enough to preserve the atmosphere. It would just escape into space. It's not just size. Location is equally important. A planet has to be near enough to its sun for liquid water to exist. It's believed that liquid water is essential for every form of life. Too near the sun, like Venus, where the surface temperature is a boiling 462 degrees Celsius, and the water would just boil away. Too far away, and water freezes. On Earth, liquid water is everywhere. More than 2/3 of the surface is covered with it.
We want to find planets that might harbor life. We want to find planets that are at a distance from the star, where it's not so hot that water is vaporized, not so cold that water is just locked up in ice, but, just right, the Goldilocks zone, where water exists in puddles.
And in June 2004, European scientists found the smallest planet yet outside our solar system. It's just 14 times the size of Earth and may have a rocky surface, a kind of super-Earth. And where there's a rocky surface, there might be liquid water. Scientists think that this is the largest a rocky planet can be. Any bigger, and it would collapse. It's 50 light-years away in the southern constellation Altair. It's one of 3 planets orbiting around a sun much like ours. The discovery of smaller Earth-sized planets will require a leap of technology that's already occurring. The Space Telescope at the Kepler Observatory is expected to launch in 2007. The mission will survey thousands of our nearest stars. When a planet crosses between a star and the telescope, the size of the planet can be determined by measuring the amount of starlight it blocks. Scientists are optimistic that they'll find at least 50 Earth-sized planets within 10 years of the Kepler telescope's launch. There is one group of scientists who've been looking for signs of alien life for over 20 years. The SETI Institute in California is the birthplace of alien hunting. SETI is the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and this is where some of the best minds in the world are engaged in a complex, sophisticated, long-term endeavor. Seth Shostak is the Institute's senior astronomer. He's dedicated most of his professional life to searching for alien intelligence.
My personal interest, of course, in SETI, I think that goes back to my childhood. I can remember when I was 10 years old buying these books about flying saucers.
Shostak and his colleagues are searching for aliens by listening to the radio. It may seem basic, but radio is a powerful source of communication. Radio signals are energy waves radiating out in every direction. As well as reaching radio and TV sets, the signals also leak into space, as they have been doing for the last 70 to 100 years.
I have a dream today.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
The Lucy Show.
Oh, you must think I'm a perfect idiot.
Nobody's perfect.
These radio waves are traveling outwards at the speed of light. It takes just over a second for a signal to reach the moon from Earth. That sounds fast, but given the interstellar distances involved, even the speed of light ends up taking a long time. A message received tomorrow from the other side of our galaxy would have been sent 100,000 years ago. That long ago on Earth, some early ancestors of ours were just taking their first steps. 100,000 years later, humans have at last become advanced enough to listen out for a message from the stars. So where is the best place to try? Arecibo in Puerto Rico, home to one of the world's largest radio telescopes. The Arecibo dish sits in a giant natural crater. It's a monumental 300 meters in diameter. This dish is so sensitive, it could pick up a mobile phone as far away as Jupiter. Since 1997, Arecibo has been home to Project Phoenix. The SETI Institute scans about 1,000 stars similar to our Sun within 200 light-years of Earth. That's the cosmic equivalent of just looking in the back garden, but the search has to start somewhere. Millions of radio channels are scanned simultaneously. The universe is alive with radio noise, a sort of galactic white noise. But these signals, dramatic as they may seem, are random natural events. SETI's electronic ears are tuned to hear deliberately made signals, signals that indicate life. Something that stands out. A voice calling out through the background chaos of space.
It would be a constant tone or a slowly varying tone, sort of like a flute tone, a very pure tone actually, in a sea of noise. I guess you could say it would be like playing a flute note while standing next to a waterfall.
Naturally occurring signals are spread across a broad part of the spectrum, but an artificial transmission like a TV picture or radio broadcast is squeezed into a tiny part of the radio dial. A narrow band signal.
We're just looking for the kind of signal that would tell us that somebody has built a transmitter. We're just looking for the evidence that their transmitter is on.
After 40 years of listening out for a message, scientists have heard nothing. But this kind of search could take years. At the moment, they're just taking their first tentative steps. Is there anything else that experts can do? A new form of interstellar communication could hold the answer. A light so brilliant, it burns 1,000,000 times brighter than our sun. This galaxy is just one of billions in the universe, and new planets and solar systems are being discovered. So scientists continue to wait patiently for an intergalactic message. If there are any aliens out there, it seems they've so far maintained radio silence. But maybe they're trying to contact us some other way. Dan Wertheimer is at the Luschner Telescope in Berkeley, California. He's been an alien hunter for the last 25 years.
There are 200 billion stars in our Milky Way galaxy and billions of galaxies, so it would be bizarre if we were the only ones.
He's not listening, he's looking for a sign in the sky. Wertheimer heads up one of Berkeley's optical SETI programs.
Wow, so there's another one. So there's a lot of weird things happening that night.
His team is searching for a very bright flash in the sky, a pulse that may only last for 1/1000,000th of a second. The most powerful lasers on Earth can produce a light 1,000,000 times brighter than our sun. Wertheimer believes that using a laser may be the way that aliens try to catch our attention. He believes that aliens might use lasers to transmit a signal something like Morse code, turning the laser on and off in short bursts.
The advantage of optical signals is that they're very directional. They could contain a huge of information. They could send us their whole Library of Congress, all their music, poetry, literature, science, medicine. Perhaps they tell us how to get on the galactic internet, communicating with civilizations all throughout the galaxy.
But how do the scientists tell the difference between starlight and artificial light? A laser light flashing for just 1/1000,000th of a second would deliver to the telescope up to 10 particles of light called photons, stronger than what you'd see from a star.
And that's very rare from a star. Even a bright star, you don't get so many photons coming into your telescope in 1/1000,000th of a second.
The team monitors each star for a minute and then moves on to the next one if there is no flash. 10,000 stars have now been scanned, but so far, Dan Wertheimer has yet to see the light.
But I'm optimistic in the long run because the technology is changing so fast. The telescopes are getting better, the detectors are getting better. We'll look at more and more stars. Eventually we'll look at hundreds of millions of stars. We're going to be doing a sky survey of the galactic plane. So right now Earthlings are kind of in a primitive state. We're just learning how we might communicate with ET.
There was an incident back in the 1960s when Nobel Prize-winning British scientist Professor Anthony Hewish found what might have been an alien transmission. From what looked more like a series of clotheslines than a radio receiver, he and his team started to detect a regular series of pulses about a second apart.
What was absolutely amazing about this signal was that it was a succession of sharp pulses, as if what we were looking at was a star just simply flashing. Well, astronomical bodies don't do that. One possibility, obviously, of getting artificial signals from outer space is that you're dealing with something intelligent. And jokingly, we call them LGM signals, little green men out there. I don't think anybody seriously believed that, but it was a possibility, quite clearly.
But there were no little green men to be found anywhere. Hewish soon realized that what he'd found came from a natural source. It was the signature of a dead star called a neutron star. These dead stars spin at high speed, sending out pulses like a lighthouse beam. If alien life forms haven't sent us a message, maybe we should get in touch with them. Over 30 years ago, NASA did just that by posting a letter to the stars from planet Earth. In 1972, the space agency launched Pioneer 10. After visiting Jupiter, the probe journeyed out deeper into space. Today, it's 13 billion kilometers from Earth, heading for the red star Aldebaran in the constellation Taurus. The spacecraft is due to reach its destination in a mere 2 million years. If there's anyone there, they will find a plaque on the side of the craft. A greeting card from Earth showing the location of planet Earth and a picture of what we look like. The symbol for hydrogen, the most common element in the universe, is also depicted. But there is another spacecraft even further away. Voyager 1 is now the most distant man-made object in the solar system. More than 14 billion kilometers from Earth, Voyager 1 is about to leave our solar system, destined to wander the stars of the Milky Way, perhaps forever. If Voyager should encounter any alien beings, it too carries a greeting. A gold-plated phonographic record attached to the side of the probe contains images, natural sounds, and music from Earth.
Hello from the children of planet.
Symbolic images explain how to play the record and where it came from. If we were to wait until some alien finds one of the space probes and replies, it could take millions of years. But why are the scientists so positive that there are other intelligent beings in the galaxy? It's simply a case of numbers, very large numbers. It's estimated there are at least 70,000 million stars in the universe. The big question is how many of those could be home to advanced life. Back in 1961, the father of SETI science, Frank Drake, came up with an equation for calculating how many alien civilizations there could be in our own galaxy with the ability to contact us. Drake asked how many stars are there capable of supporting planets with intelligent life? And then how many planets could have radio technology? And how long did the civilizations with such technology last?
One of the problems, of course, with the Drake equation is that we can't actually solve it, if you will. I mean, we don't know the values of many of the terms. And if there's even one term in that equation that you really don't know at all, then the end result is an answer that you don't know at all.
Nevertheless, many scientists believe that even when the most conservative numbers are punched into the equation, you'll still come out with many intelligent civilizations in our galaxy alone. But that raises a question, one that was highlighted as long ago as 1950 by physicist Enrico Fermi. In what became known as Fermi's paradox, he asked, where is everybody? If our galaxy is so crowded, why haven't we heard from anyone? For an answer, it's necessary to travel to Denver, Colorado, to meet planetary scientist David Grinspoon. He's an advisor to NASA on space exploration strategy and has studied the search for alien life for 15 years.
Are we alone? No. We're not alone. I'm sure there are other species and other life and even, I would say, other civilizations out there. It's not something I have direct evidence for, but I feel like I have a lot of indirect evidence in terms of everything I understand about how we got to be here on Earth and everything I understand about what seems to be going on in the rest of the universe.
Grinspoon has come up with what he calls the seedling hypothesis. His analogy is that the universe is like a forest full of mature trees and exotic creatures. Earthlings are mere seedlings, who someday could grow into something interesting, but right now are not even noticeable. It may be humbling, but it might be that we are just not important enough to engage any alien beings.
Maybe they're just not that interested in us. In a universe with perhaps all kinds of creatures and civilizations, we're very new to the scene. We haven't necessarily accomplished that much or done that much to distinguish us for somebody who's really been around a long time.
But there may be a better answer to Fermi's paradox, the sheer size of space. Even for a brainier-than-average alien, the laws of physics are a major stumbling block to interstellar travel. A century ago, Einstein calculated that to travel faster than the speed of light was impossible. To break the speed of light barrier requires an infinite amount of energy. Even if alien spacecraft could approach the speed of light, scientists suggest that for every kilogram a spacecraft weighed, 2 billion kilograms of fuel would be needed. And traveling around the galaxy at anything less than the speed of light would take millions and millions of years. But maybe aliens will be content to travel around at more modest speeds. Perhaps they live longer than humans. Even on Earth, there are life forms that survive far longer than people. The Californian redwood trees can live for 2,000 years.
The fallacy is in thinking that other advanced species would care that something couldn't be done in a human lifetime. What if you let the trip take 1,000 years or 10,000 years? I think there's a chauvinism, a temporal chauvinism, where if something can't be done in 100 years or a couple hundred years, then it's impossible.
And perhaps we suffer from environmental chauvinism as well, finding it hard to imagine how life could survive in strange conditions. And yet some of the strangest environments can be found here on Earth. Scientists believe that advanced life could exist elsewhere in the universe, but so far there's no proof. Even so, scientists are making startling new discoveries. They are finding microscopic life forms in the most inhospitable places right here on Earth. If life can flourish in the most extreme conditions here, the possibility of it taking hold elsewhere in the galaxy seems much more likely. Yet even if evidence of microbial life is found, infinitely less intelligent than us, why should we care? Microbes can't tell us the secrets of the universe. They can't talk to us. Planetary scientist David Grinspoon thinks that any such discovery would be of huge significance.
If we find microbial life anywhere in our own solar system, that implies a very fertile universe. It implies that making life is something that planets do, and that implies that there are intelligent species out there in great number, some of whom will want to talk to us.
Meet astrobiologist Penny Boston. She spends her life in some of the darkest, most hostile places on Earth. She's looking for extremophiles, microbes that can thrive in places that would kill most other creatures.
What we're doing in extreme environments on Earth is really trying to write a field guide to microorganisms on planets that we've never been, for organisms that we don't even know exist yet.
Carlsbad Caverns, New Mexico. These are some of the deepest caves in America. What could possibly exist down here in zero sunlight?
Sure nothing's grown up on them.
Penny Boston has found microbes that nourish themselves by literally munching their way through solid rock.
These are the organisms that manage to liberate small quantities of material from the rock itself. That is, they chemically react to these, and during that reaction they get energy from that process, and that's the energy that provides the foundation of their life. And so they then use that energy just as we eat food at the dinner table. And so their ability to survive in an environment that is essentially food-free is one of the things that we are focusing on the most intensely.
And it's not just in deep cave systems that these extremophile microbes are thriving. This is Mono Lake in California. It may look beautiful, but the salt levels are 3 times greater than in seawater. It's poisonous to humans, but it's teeming with microbial life. And extremophiles can survive extreme cold too. This is the Fox Tunnel in Alaska. It's an extremely cold environment, but amazingly, even here, there are microorganisms in the permafrost that can stay frozen for millions of years, and they are still alive. By warming them up, scientists could revive these dormant organisms.
As much as we can stretch our imaginations in every conceivable direction of the limits of life, that makes us better and better prepared to recognize life when we see it wherever we find it elsewhere, in our solar system and ultimately beyond.
So what we need is an interplanetary field trip to search for microbial life. This is the largest moon of Saturn, Titan. It's the only moon in the solar system with an atmosphere. Titan has an orange haze surrounding it, this haze could be concealing carbon-rich lakes and oceans, and possibly life. To find out if there is life on Titan, NASA has launched a mission to Saturn and its moon. The spacecraft Cassini blasted off from Earth in 1997 and reached Titan in January 2005. A probe descended through the atmosphere at nearly 6.5 kilometers a second, passing through a fog of nitrogen, methane, and other carbon-based chemicals. Titan is about half the size of Earth, but its atmosphere is 4 times as dense, and the temperature is a distinctly chilly minus 178 degrees Celsius. After a successful landing, it radioed its data some 1,100 million kilometers across space back to Earth. Scientists think that Titan could be rich in organic chemicals that would have been common on primitive Earth when life here began. Maybe that means there are microbes here too. An even more inhospitable world for life is Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. At first glance, it looks like a dead, frozen landscape. The entire surface is concealed by a layer of ice, but a closer look reveals something amazing. Photographs taken by the Galileo probe revealed multiple crisscrossing lines covering this icy world. There's only one other place in the solar system with similar features, the frozen Arctic seas on Earth, where the ice floats on water and is constantly moving. That makes scientists believe there is a chance that underneath the icy surface of Europa could be a vast liquid ocean. But what is keeping the ocean from freezing totally? It could be kept liquid by the huge forces on the moon. Europa is being pulled in different directions by the gravitational forces of Jupiter and the other moons around the planet. These tidal forces heat up the moon's core, enough to keep the ocean around it liquid. Eventually, NASA hopes to probe even further into Europa's mysteries. One idea is to send an orbiter that would scan the surface to confirm whether there is an ocean below the ice. Once an orbiter locates a thin spot in the ice, they may be able to send a robotic probe down through the ice, looking for life in the water below. The hydrobot could then send back digital pictures as it scours the ocean. It may find hot spots on the ocean floor called hydrothermal vents. These cracks in the ground spout warm, nutrient-rich water. On Earth, these vents are home to many simple life forms. Perhaps the hydrobot could find Europa as fertile as our ocean floor. Might the nearest aliens be living here? But the best candidate for past or present life in our solar system is Mars. In recent years, an armada of spacecraft has been sent to Mars. NASA's Mars rover mission has found evidence of volcanic activity, wind effects, and most importantly, indications in the veins of some rocks that sometime in the past, Mars did have water underground in liquid form. Where there is water on Earth, there is life. So many scientists believe it's possible Mars did at one time host some form of life. Back on Earth, there are many who believe we don't need to go looking on other planets to find evidence of alien intelligence. One survey found that over half the population of the United States believes that we have been visited by alien beings. Is there any possibility they're right? In Wiltshire, when strange things began to happen in the wheat fields one summer, the crop circle phenomenon was born. Some believe that these intricate patterns were landing sites of alien spacecraft. Others suggested they may be messages left by extraterrestrials or navigation devices made and used by aliens. It's even been suggested they may be created by powerful winds. This is called the plasma vortex theory. John Lundberg has another explanation. They are just hoaxes. And how does he know it? He's one of the world's leading circle makers. He and his team are responsible for some of the most complex and sophisticated crop circles ever seen.
We wanted to create circles that were so big and so complex that people would once again question that these things are man-made.
And to prove once and for all that they are made by humans, Lundberg has agreed to create a crop circle for this program. The circle will take about 90 minutes to create. First, he marks out the circumference of his circle. He uses a 100-meter surveyor's tape to measure out the pattern. The design is worked out in advance on a computer. The crop circler's secret weapon is a stalk stomper, a meter-long plank of wood they use to flatten the crop. And there's not a single alien in sight. But even though Lundberg openly demonstrates the secrets behind crop circles, there are a few who still believe that these are alien in origin.
The formation that we've created here has actually been made in daylight. And so the researchers will say that this is not the correct kind of test conditions, because obviously we've got daylight which enables us to make the circle easier. And obviously these are things that they put forward as being part of the genuine article.
It's not just crop circles that have been thought to be signs of alien visitation. Here in the Peruvian desert, about 400 kilometers south of Lima, is a plain covering nearly 322 square kilometers. It contains a series of perfectly straight lines. This grand geometric form is on a scale so large it can only be truly appreciated from the air. The longest line goes 15 kilometers across the plain. And around the lines are strange symbols and pictures of beasts. Archaeologists believe that these lines date back to 200 BC. The forms are so difficult to see from the ground, it wasn't until the 1930s that aircraft surveying for water were able to make them out. So how did they get there, and what are they there for? The Swiss writer Erich von Däniken made his fortune by suggesting this was a giant landing strip for alien spacecraft. The only trouble with that theory is the desert floor here is soft earth and loose stone, hardly suitable for landing any heavy aircraft. But if it's not a private airstrip for alien visitors, then what is it? Most researchers think that it's some form of giant site of worship. The straight lines may be pathways linking a series of shrines. And the figures were probably not meant for human eyes, but for the gods. But for those who seriously believe we've been visited, this is the ultimate proof, an unidentified flying object, or UFO. The first modern-day UFO was spotted in 1947 near Mount Rainier, Washington. It was described as a saucer skipping over water. And from that description, the flying saucer was born.
You and your women can give us life, and what we want, we take.
The myth was fed by a series of sci-fi movies, and the belief that aliens had visited us in flying saucers just grew and grew. Even as late as 1996, a poll conducted in the United States showed that nearly 3/4 of the population believed that their government is covering up information about UFOs. And the possible reason? The apparent UFO crash at Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. It has entered American folklore. For many, it was the ultimate conspiracy theory. An alien spacecraft crashes in the desert, and alien bodies are removed from the crash site to be examined by autopsy. All this is covered up by the government and remains top secret to this day. The truth? Something did crash in the desert, and there were bodies. But it wasn't alien in origin. It was a high-altitude military balloon test. The bodies that eyewitnesses claimed to have seen were dummies. But how do we explain away the countless UFO sightings and filmed evidence? Once again, it's necessary to enlist the expert skills of hoaxbuster John Lundberg.
We've used a kind of technique that undoubtedly has been used by many people in the past to perpetrate UFO hoaxes. And it simply is a matter of building a small-scale model and then having that suspended on a rig and a bit of fishing wire so we can actually have the craft up in the sky with the surrounding clouds and sky and a landscape. And to be honest, it's quite easy to do. It's not difficult to achieve.
And then, with some clever manipulation on his laptop, Lundberg produces the perfect UFO picture. Yet there are always some people who will never be convinced that such pictures are the work of hoaxers.
If you are coming forward and showing that you've actually perpetrated a hoax, you're immediately seen by that community as a heretic, as seen to be attacking their belief system. And they will do intellectual double-back somersaults to basically explain away you and your hoax.
So there is no hard evidence that Earth has ever been visited by aliens. But there is an occasion when the scientific world believed it might have made first contact. This is the sound of our universe. It's alive with cosmic noise, a constant barrage of galactic white noise. The 15th of August 1977, Ohio State University. This is Project Big Ear. Its aim is to scan the galaxy and listen out for alien species. It's the middle of the night. As the scientists catch up on their sleep, the computers suddenly pick up a signal. It's coming from somewhere in the direction of the constellation of Sagittarius, over 200 light-years away. But this is no ordinary signal. There is no known natural phenomenon to explain it. This blip looks like a mark of technology, perhaps a sound of intelligent life. It lasts for 72 seconds and then goes silent. It's so striking that the first scientist to see the computer printout wrote down one word: wow. But the wow signal, as it came to be known, has never been heard again. Planetary scientist David Grinspoon thinks it may well have been alien in origin.
It remains quite possible that the wow signal was a genuine detection of some kind of extraterrestrial intelligence. My sort of fantasy scenario for the wow signal is that it was a snippet of conversation, perhaps between two ships, between two aliens, that wasn't really directed at us. We just happened to, for a second, be in the right spot to eavesdrop on.
Although the wow signal has never been repeated, there is a chance that aliens are already transmitting and we're just looking in the wrong places. For us to have a realistic chance of finding alien intelligence, we need to scan not thousands of stars, but millions. How can that sort of scale be achieved? Northern California is home to the site of the Allen Array. It's the new permanent site for the SETI Institute's galactic sweep. Although currently there are only a few operating, eventually there will be 350 dishes covering this site. All of them able to run 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, scanning the stars for signs of intelligent life. The SETI search has been running for the last 2 decades. In that time, thousands of stars have been scanned. With this new array, the SETI Institute will be able to search millions of stars in the next 20 years alone. And with that sort of capability, the Institute's senior astronomer, Seth Shostak, is for the first time confident enough to make a prediction just for this program.
So given the capabilities of this telescope and how many star systems it's going to be looking at in the next 2 decades, I think that we're going to hear extraterrestrials by the year 2025, and in fact, all the action is in the last 5 years. So my bet is we'll know we're not alone sometime between the year 2020 and the year 2025.
And how will it change us the day we discover we're not alone in the universe?
I suspect this will be one of the biggest, if not the biggest story of all time. I think that if you were a resident of Earth in the 30th century and you look back on the 21st century, you know, you wouldn't remember anything about the wars or the technology or the political infighting or any of that stuff. What you would remember was that's when they finally shattered this ball of isolation that was around this planet. That's when they finally found that there were others out there.
But there are a number of scientists who think we should be very wary of contact with aliens. Professor Stephen Hawking of Cambridge University is one of the world's leading cosmologists.
I think it would be a disaster. The extraterrestrials would probably be far in advance of us. The history of advanced races meeting more primitive people on this planet is not very happy, and they were the same species. I think we should keep our heads low.
But it may already be too late. As we've already heard, for the last 100 years, scientists have been transmitting radio signals, and they've also been leaking off the planet at the speed of light. One day, if there is intelligent life out there, someone or something will know we are here. Perhaps advanced civilizations will have evolved to the point where conquest and wars are a thing of the past. Let us hope that if they do come, they come in peace.